Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kit. I write fantasy, and I've published one book that was inspired by Game of Thrones, Dragon Age Inquisition, and Skyrim, and also The Witcher. So today I thought I would talk a little bit about one of my favorite hobbies, which is keeping a journal. Um, I think maybe as a writer, this might not come as a surprise, but it might be surprising to you just how much I journal. So let me give you a glance at what I've done. Okay, so here in this little corner of my room, that is my stash of journals. Um, Obviously, you can tell there's quite a bit of them. I've been writing in journals since 2016. So it's been roughly 10 years, I would say. I do keep sticky note tabs on my journals, and that I will explain in just a second. Okay, so this is the last journal that I completed. Obviously, you can see the dates that I was writing in this. This is the journal I took with me to Scotland. That was a fun trip. But yeah, here on the sides you can see all of the tabs that I kept, and they are actually color coded, believe it or not. Um, this bluish one right here, this is the one that I keep for any journal entries that cover dreams that I have had, or if I had a tarot reading that was particularly intriguing, then I will also keep a marker on that. The red tabs are like emotional highs or lows, so they are quite literally red flags. um, and then these yellowish ones, it's kind of hard to tell that it's yellow, but it's more of like a dark goldish. Those are if I do any actual like fiction writing or writing that I think is particularly worth saving, then I will go ahead and mark that just for reference. And I don't have any in this journal, but in my previous journals, whenever I have written any sort of like brainstorming for the Stormbringer saga, I will have green tabs up here on the top. And I keep them up on the top so that they are separate from everything else down here. And then this one right here, this is the journal that I'm currently working on. This little bookmark, this was given to me by a friend, and I just use this to make sure that I know which journal I'm currently working on because, as you could tell from my stack, I have quite a few journals. So if it wasn't already obvious which one I was working through, then this will tell me. I'm not too far into this journal yet. There it is, little bookmark right here. Um, and I do try to write in my journal daily, or at least a few times a week. And the reason I journal daily, or frequently at least, is because I want to keep my mind fresh. I want to keep my ideas going, and I just don't want to get into a mindset where I just stop. And even if I'm not actively working on any current writing projects, I just want to keep my I want to be sure that I'm not falling into a writing rut, is what I'm trying to say. I love this thing so much. Um, I honestly, every time I start or finish a journal, I kind of think of it as like saying goodbye to one friend and saying hello to another one, even though it's an inanimate object. I just become a little bit sentimental towards my stuff, especially when it carries 10 years worth of memories. But anyway, I think keeping a handwritten journal is one of the best things I've ever done, one of the best habits I've ever kept up. Not just because I have a collection of memories in the corner of my room. I mean, it's my room. There are memories everywhere. Um, but my journals specifically, they carry my thoughts, my emotions, my ideas, and they also show my personal growth, not just as a person, but as a writer. Um, there was like about a week ago, I was looking back through one of my journals from 2020 COVID era, and I was reading through the passages that I was writing because at the time I was taking a creative nonfiction class, and so I was having to write all these personal essays and memoirs and allowed a lot of the drafting that I would do, I did in those journals. And so that was kind of nice. It was a nice little time capsule to go back and read through these and be like, oh, my writing was actually not that bad. It was actually kind of good. And I just didn't see it until now, 6 years later. Go figure on that, right? So that's one of the nice things about keeping a physical journal. And as writers, I think a lot of us tend to be record keepers. We want to keep track of our growth and our progress of our skill, right? And this is a great way to do it. I know a lot of writers will do things digitally. I mean, when I'm writing my books, I use my laptop. It's just there's too much to write, and I couldn't imagine handwriting my novels. I know some people still do it, which is amazing. I just my hand would fall off my wrist, I think, if I tried to do that. I think the act of handwriting out my thoughts lets them flow better, which is why a lot of the brainstorming, a lot of the story plotting and outlining that I do, or even for characters that I'm creating or in the process of developing, a lot of that pre planning happens on a physical page. And that's just because that's how my brain works. Like, I can't necessarily focus that easily in the development stage when I'm staring at a screen. I think there's just something maybe about the blue light, maybe it's too many distractions, too many possibilities of like hopping over onto Instagram or YouTube or whatever to just like lose my train of thought. So that's why I opt for pen and paper. And I think if you are writing your own stories, um, consider keeping a journal. If it's even if it's not something that's necessarily related to what your project is, at the very least, you'll get into that habit of creating a steadier flow. Because I do think when we write on our phones or even on our laptops, again, there's just so many possibilities and avenues of distraction that just wouldn't happen if you wrote in one of these. Another reason why I enjoy keeping a journal is just because of the privacy of it, right? We live in a digital age where it's very easy to hack into another person's personal files if they don't have the proper digital protection. And keeping a physical journal just eliminates that worry. So that's a very, I think, straightforward reason to keep a journal. And also, the fact that it is so private and so personal allows you to write without fear of judgment from other people. I think, especially for people who are just starting out their writing journey, there's a lot of pressure to write something that is going to be immediately accepted and loved and praised by audiences. And that's unfortunately simply not how it works. Um, someone's always going to be a critic. Someone's always going to hate on your work. It's just part of being a writer. But keeping a private journal like this, it's a collection of your unfiltered thoughts and all of your creative endeavors in its messy and wild and unorganized existence. And I think that's something that's honestly really beautiful. Um, there are a lot of ideas that I have written in these journals that have sort of either woven their way into my story somehow, or they have become their own story themselves, or it was just an idea that I needed to get out of my head so I could focus on something else. Um, and I think the fact that no one else is going to read this is so comforting because that allows me to just be absolutely unhinged and unfiltered. Um, and having an active creative mind, you need somewhere for all of those creative thoughts to go. So if you're a writer, regardless of how long you've been writing or where you are in your writing journey, consider keeping a physical journal if you don't already. Um, Make it a habit, make it something personal. It doesn't even have to be, you don't even have to like fill every single page with writing. In fact, let me show you something. This is yesterday's entry. That is a photo of Glencoe that I took when I was in Scotland. And literally the only thing I wrote in this journal yesterday was, I'm missing this place extra hard today, which is true. Anyway, these journals are personal. That is like the core of keeping a private journal. You can put whatever you want in there. It doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be organized. It can literally just be a brain dump. I think that's probably the most concise way I can describe the way that I journal. Is it's just whatever I feel like put it in there goes in. Another example, song lyrics to a song that I really enjoyed. This is Aka's White Wolf by Amelie Farron, and I just love the song. Had a few thoughts about it, so I printed out the lyrics, annotated it, whatever. So yeah, I think keeping a journal is maybe one of the best habits that a writer can develop if they don't already have that habit. Not just because it takes the pressure off of writing every single day, which is, if you do that, that's great. But I think it takes the pressure off of writing well. I think there's plenty of benefits from keeping a physical journal. So if you do keep a journal, let me know what you use it for. If you are thinking about starting a journal, then I hope this video kind of gave you a little bit more encouragement about starting it. Again, it doesn't need to be something that's like super fancy or organized. You saw my stockpile in the corner. I don't even keep them in a special designated space. They just sit on my floor. So that is all I have for you today. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave a like or subscribe to this channel. It really helps it grow. I don't know if you could tell, I'm new to this still, and sometimes I get a little bit flustered in front of the camera. Um, and I'm also just not accustomed to speaking for length at a time. So if sometimes my voice starts to give out, or if I'm not speaking clearly enough, I do apologize for that. That is something I'm trying to get used to and get better at. Other ways you can support me, you can follow my Instagram or you can follow my Ko-fi page. Ko-fi allows you to leave me like a little coffee tip, completely optional. Those are in the description, as well as a link to my website where you can find out more about my books, both published and upcoming, and I'll also talk about those in future videos to come. But for now, that is where I will leave you. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!